Just the 7 minutes late, and by Joel Sked standards, that is early. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Donaldson. As to what the collective name for a group of opinionated Hearts fans, broadcasters and journalists is on one maroon-tinted live stream, I have no idea, but we've already had many technical issues in the 7 minutes that we hoped to be live on air at 6:30, so hopefully they are all out the way. Hello, and welcome to whatever this is. My name is Mark Donaldson from ESPN. The only fair way to introduce tonight's panel is in alphabetical order. Let's start with Barry Anderson, who's been reporting on Hearts for the Edinburgh Evening News for more than 2 decades. This man is not a bandwagon jumper. Hello, Barry.
No, just a normal jumper, Mark. This one is it.
How are you?
All right, thanks. Thank you for having me on, as always.
No, thank you. Yeah, this was an idea that kind of came together. We all decided, let's see if we can chat about something. So next, a man who's only ever referred to by his surname, unless his mother calls him Liam. From This Is My Story podcast, it's Scott Arfield's better half. Hello, Corbin.
I'm on the Livy. I know I'm on the wrong podcast. It should be the Drumbeat Mafia, Livy Loyal. How are we all?
Good. What are you going to do on Wednesday now? Because you have to come to Tynecastle where Hearts are playing St Mirren, because your boy's no longer at Falkirk and they play against Celtic. So your allegiances this midweek are only in one place.
That's true. He could have stayed for an extra week and done us a favour. So
Could have done. This next guest would have been introduced first, because Amoruso comes before Anderson in the Scottish Football Dictionary, but Macintosh drops him down the alphabetical pecking order. Hello, Scott. How are you?
Evening, yeah. Just kind of looking at the room of the six of us and thinking the conversation I'm wanting to stimulate later on about sort of diversity in football crowds is going to be a difficult one, given the six faces that I'm staring at just now. So, I might have to rethink that part of the conversation.
Yeah, indeed. We'll do that when it comes, and you can be in charge of that one. Next, it's the only one of us who has been able to pull on the maroon jersey of his boyhood heroes, making his debut at Tynecastle in October 1992 in a 1-1 draw against St Johnstone. I was going to go down the way of one of his teammates that day was George Wright, who used to work with a Page 3 model, and now Alan Preston gets to work with us tits. But instead, that's rude. So I won't do that. And I'm going to say it's great that you're here, Biscuits, because what's this? The 12th of January, you have just finished your 30-year contract with Dundee United on the 31st of December, 2025.
Well, I've got an option, so it's still a bit to go. Thanks for inviting me on. This is my debut, obviously, on here as well. I'm looking forward to it.
As a FIFA registered agent and a top agent with some top clients as well, who's in charge of negotiating your appearance fee this evening?
Well, I've spoke to yourself, but you keep rubbing on my call, so we'll wait and see. But we'll see how it goes. See if I'm value for money or not. We'll soon see.
The final member of the sextet is Joel Sked, the editor of Hearts Standard, and the man in charge of reading out your correspondence this evening. So keep the words to like 8 letters or less. Hello, Joel.
Hello. There's already loads of comments, so I'm going to apologise in advance for not getting through them all, just because there's absolute loads. But there is one from a Laurie Dunsire. Evening, all. Long-term listener.
He looks like Robbie Nielsen's husband.
Is that an AI picture?
That's a young Laurie Dunsire right there.
That is.
Wow.
What a hairline.
That's Laurie before the kids. That's definitely Laurie before the kids.
Yeah.
Here for the collaboration vibes. Yeah, indeed. So that's the first one.
Brad Pitt, look at him there.
Yeah.
This doesn't look like
armpit, more like. Deary me.
The main reason for this get-together of us is to talk about the match day atmosphere at Tynecastle. Not to stick the boot in, not to have a go. We're going to try and explore ways to make a good atmosphere great and a great atmosphere happen more often. So to set the table tonight, I want to hand over to Corbett to tell us exactly why we're here.
Well, I've been I don't know if you call it a thorn in the side of the club. I've been a vocal person for the past 4 years, 5 years about the atmosphere, because as everybody else, I grew up at the feet of my dad, my Uncle Phil, listening to European Glory Night and Derby days, and I'm lucky enough that I've lived some of those experiences at Tynecastle. But I have noticed over the last while a waning of it. We get right up for it for Hibs. To be honest, the Celtic and Rangers days seem to dwindle. This season's much better, but we get emptier and emptier. We cut the allocation, and the matchday vibes for an Old Firm game weren't what they were used to be. And I remember one of the European nights in the Conference League. It was a 6 o'clock kickoff that didn't help, but I remember walking to the game with my boss, who was an English football fan, telling him, "This will blow you away. Tynecastle under the lights, European. Forget your stale English Premier League, your franchise league. You'll never see anything like this." And it was horrendous. So, messaged the club to say, we need to do something. What are we doing to try and make the atmosphere better? And we've been trying, and the club are dead open to it. They've been dead receptive to trying different things. We've had tifos, we've done displays at Hampden, we've got the ultra section, we've tried different ways of getting the place better. And it was after the Livingston game on Saturday where, like yesterday actually, it was a good, both 0-0s, but the away end yesterday was everything that the team needs. For 45 minutes, it got right behind the team. It realised it was in a situation that needed their help. And the players responded, management responded, we responded, and we dug it out. But at the end of the 90 minutes against Livingston, it was more of everybody walking out flat, moaning about the performance. And I'm like, we're in a title race. 3 points is all that matters right now. Forget about performances. We need results, and the team needs us. So, thought, right, let's get the brain trust together. What can we do? There's loads of opinions out there. Loads of people I talked to at the games. Even yesterday, me and Scott were talking in the concourse. Loads of folk come up with, we need to do this, we need to do that. What can we do? How can we get it better? So it's a good opportunity to let not just us speak, but maybe hear directly from the fans, so that the club can see that there is a genuine appetite to help the matchday experience on a Saturday, because we need it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. And as I said, Joel's going to be in charge of putting the best messages and the most pertinent ones that we can talk about at the bottom of the screen for us to discuss. Funnily enough, speaking of messages, Biscuits, I woke 5 hours behind here in Connecticut last week to a message from you, having been at Hearts against Livingston, saying, what's the chances of maybe doing something or talking about it on your podcasts? And we'd already had this as a potential for something to do. Joel, me, Barry, Liam, Scott, Laurie had talked about maybe doing something. So here it is. What was your experience of the second half? So let's start. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's start with the second half atmosphere against Livingston, because that can be our starting point at Tynecastle last week.
Well, with my job with the BBC, Mark, sometimes I sit in the main stand if I'm doing open all mics or whatever, but if it's a main commentary game, I'll sit at the back of the wheat field. That's where Laurie sits and the TV gantries are. So I'm up there, and with 25 minutes to go in the second half, I was amazed how negative everybody was. Now, yeah, Livingston were coming on strong. Hearts have got no divine right to win every game and to win it by 4 or 5. They should have been 4 or 5 up at half-time, yes. Didn't take their chances. But the crowd, real anxiety in the crowd, and that goes onto the pitch. The players can feel that as well. But what that also does, it gives the opposition team as well a boost, because they can silence the crowd. Every time I played at Tynecastle when I was against Hearts or Easter Road or Rangers or Celtic, silence the crowd. Turn the crowd round if you can. And that's what it felt like with me with Livingston with 20 minutes to go. It was deadly silent. This team, these players have never been in this situation before in their careers, where they're ahead at the top of the league into the middle of January. If they can win Wednesday, they'll go 6 clear, hopefully. But they've never been in this situation, and they need all the help they can get. I think the Ultras have been magnificent, absolutely brilliant. But can we get more from the rest of the supporters? I'm sure they can. People say it's the 12th man. It can be the 12th man. If they go 1-0 down, shout them on. If they concede a corner or it's a misplaced pass, shout them on. Here's a chance to make history, real history. Now, it might not happen, it might not work, but give it everything you've got. I think the players, the management and the club now, for what they've given us this season, deserve the full backing of everyone for the first minute to the last minute.
Derek McInnes, Scott, was talking afterwards about the game at Dens Park, was talking about how that result and the way that they got it will hopefully mean that even before kickoff against St Mirren, that the crowd are welcomed onto the pitch in midweek. What more can Hearts fans do, Scott, so we don't have a repeat of the reactiveness from the Livy game and waiting for things to happen?
Before
Scott,
before Scott answers that, I think Biscuits makes a really good point in terms of this team deserve the backing of the fans, and it's a comment here from one of the fans says the point is put a football side on the pitch that the fans fall in love with, win games. The fans are watching a team that are top of the league. I would say are falling in love with this team, and yet the atmosphere is still there. So it doesn't. It shows that it's not just a case of turning up on a Saturday and seeing a winning team. There has to be more to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think one of the biggest issues is there is that fear factor. We do have things to play for and ultimately potentially lose as well. And I think Biscuits just talked about there. He talked about the fact that there's a lot of players that haven't been in this position. There's also generations of Hearts fans that haven't been in this position very often either. And I think there is that fear factor. It's potentially, because I wouldn't say Livingston wasn't toxic. It wasn't so much that there was negativity. There was a lot of timidness and there was a lot of, I would say, it's just sort of fear and frustration amongst the fans. And I think that's what fans need to try and get over. Now, how can that be done? I think since the introduction of the Ultras, and again, I would echo what's already been said on here, I think the Ultras have done a really good job home and away to try and help with the atmosphere. But sometimes what that can lead to is an expectation for the fans that there's almost this regimented atmosphere that's going to come with watching Hearts on a week-to-week basis. There's going to be the drum, there's going to be the tannoy, there's going to be 100 to 200 fans kind of with their sort of songbook, so to speak. I think then the spontaneity tends to then dissipate from the other stands. And maybe that's something where fans in those other groups need to start to take a bit more ownership and say, well, we get that the Ultras are there. We get that you've still got Section G. You still got lower Section N to an extent. But actually, we need to be doing a bit more as well and not just relying on these guys to be sort of picking up the sort of heavy lifting, so to speak, when it comes to kicking the team on. But a lot of it should come from just spontaneous reactions to a 50-50 tackle or pressing a team high up the park. I think back to that first 20 minutes against Aberdeen at the start of the season. That's the atmosphere we need to be recreating. The crowd literally roared every kick of the ball in that opening 20 minutes.
Aye, we're celebrating throw-ins, man.
and that's because we were mirroring the team. And this is where the team do come into it a little bit. I think part of the reason why there's so much passive atmospheres, not just amongst Hearts fans, but throughout British football in general, is because the style of football has become quite passive as well, and teams like to build for the back. So I think if you get a team, and Hearts have been good at this at points this season, if you get a team that can go back to front and, win possession in the final third, win those turnovers, play with a certain tempo, then that will help build the crowd up as well. Whereas against Livingston, we came out in the second half and you could tell that the players, they just sort of lost control of the match, and that ultimately fed into the fans. So there is a bit of a two-way system with it, but I do think fans do need to take a bit more ownership and not just rely on the same 2 or 3 sections to do the heavy lifting here.
And it's a good... I was just going to jump in there just to say sorry, but it's a good point about the Ultras, but people need to remember that our capacity is 19,000. The Ultras are 200 seats behind the goal. So this is where when I first started to talk to Hearts, I'd floated the idea not just about Ultras, but I remember being 4, 5, 6-year-old and knowing where I had to go stand when I was with my dad or we went to the games. We knew not to stand in the shed, we knew to go to the enclosure, we knew where the family stuff was. And the idea was that it's been a hell of a long time since we reclassified the areas of the stadium. And right now, I use this all the time, but everybody laughs at that video of the Aberdeen women going, they're not in their seats. But that's Scottish football right now. There's 2 worlds where the boys that want to stand and sing can live, and the people who want to go watch the football can live. But when clubs just focus on selling tickets, they merge everybody together. So you could have a row of 25 folk, you could have 10 folk dead up for it, and you could have the rest that just want to sit. And that's why we said reclassify, have a designated family section, family area, cater it, get the kiosks and Jock the Jambo and all that stuff in and around that area, so it's a real family-centric place, and put it there. Have a designated place for hospitality. I will not stop talking about that. There are 4 stands at Tynecastle, 3 of them house away fans. That has to stop. That has to. The Wheatfield is the only Hearts only stand at Tynecastle. Roseburn's got away end. Gorgie has away fans. The main stand houses away fans through the hospitality suites. We need to do something. The impending doom. Imagine we need a title challenge, or the in the split, it's Rangers Hearts at Tynecastle, and it's a title decider. That hospitality section in the Gorgie is going to be filled to the brim with Rangers fans.
Is the club willing
I
to
think.
listen?
What was that?
Is the club willing to listen?
Yeah, I think that the club, unlike Hibs and Aberdeen, find themselves in a unique, hard place, and a great hard place to be in from our perspective is that we've sold out season tickets. The Red Shed at Aberdeen, they've got 15,000 empty seats every week. They can do whatever they want with it. Hibs had the famous 5 that was half empty every week. They could do something with it. Hearts, to reclassify the stands, are going to have to do they're going to move people that potentially don't want to have to move or whatever. But it's one of these things now where I think if they do it in the right way, advertise it properly, and make the sections proper designated bits, and advertise them to their customer, I think they'd get loads of buy-in from it. So that's what we've been talking about. It wasn't just always ultras. It was like, imagine the Gorgie was a full stand of safe standing. You know, flags like the Newcastle War flags, match day displays, and that away end, but at home, like yesterday, that away end back in the team. Imagine versus Livy, like Biscuit says, 20 minutes to go, you've got 3,500 Hearts fans, all like-minded Hearts fans, screaming the team forward, cheering the team forward, getting behind them, the club shooting towards that end, like the Kop at Anfield, Stretford End at Man United, the yellow wall at Dortmund. That's what we need.
So yes. there's loads of loads of comments about safe standing the Gorgie for next season. There's loads about Fireworks Phil as well. The Gorgie stand needs to be an area where like-minded fans go back to team vocally. How easy is it for safe standing to be brought into the Gorgie stand, and what size do you think needs of the Gorgie stand that needs to be kind of given over to fans who want to be vocal and sing? Just because people will point to guys who've gone back to Section N this season or Section G this season where people have been traditionally.
Yep. Well, that comes to the older heads that have been around the Ultras from the start to try and keep them away from the sort of scenes that you see the Celtic and Rangers get their Ultras banned for. But it was on the sort of idea or promise that we'd have rope and pulley systems for doing the tifo. So right now, we want to do a match day display in the Gorgie. We have to create a flag that covers hospitality, because hospitality won't hold bits of paper up or wave the flags or whatever it is. The Hibs tifo that we had at the start of the season, they literally ripped it in half. That's why when the teams came out, there was a big gaping hole in the middle of it where the Hearts, where we'd painted for a month and a half a banner that was supposed to be there, but hospitality don't want things above them, so they rip it apart, and when the team comes out, there's just a big empty space. So I would say that once the hospitality can stay in the Gorgie suite, it's cool, it makes the club money, I understand that, but move them into the main stand seats or put them into Section A. And
it used to be Section A.
Aye.
Yeah, it did. They used to go in there, and if you could lure the guys for G and N over and get like the whole bottom half of the Gorgie is 630 seats, so something like that. So, you know, first and foremost, if you can't do the full stand, do the full lower, make that safe stand, and advertise it as a singing section, not the Ultras. If you keep advertising it as the Ultras, the vision was always that it would be a singing stand with some Ultras in it. The people are 30, 40, 50-year-old that want to stand and sing, aren't they going to be gone in silks and matching jackets and all that sort of stuff? But they want an area where, like yesterday, I never sat the whole time I was at the game yesterday. We stood for 90 minutes. So I think that's achievable, the lower Gorgie to begin with. But again, just to go back to Scott's point, I think that's what's needed, is that sometimes I think there's only 200 boys there in the Ultras. They can't make 18,000 people sing, and 200 folks singing in an 18,000 seater stadium. It's never going to carry around the stadium unless people get behind them and realise what they're trying to do and join in.
Barry, I messaged you on Thursday, I think it was, with the idea of this, and it was just before the Arsenal-Liverpool game. I said, enjoy the game. The game was dreadful. The atmosphere was horrendous. This isn't just a Hearts problem. So I don't want this to... I don't think there's a problem right now, but I think there could be that might affect our chances of potentially winning the league. So this is just a chat between 6 people to try and identify any issues that we can nip in the bud right now, come together with the club to try and do things. It's hypocrisy. I'm on my couch. I'm shouting and swearing at the TV, and I'm getting frustrated. That's all over the world. Hearts fans watching on Hearts TV when things aren't going right, and when things are going great, it's magnificent. It's magnetized. It's magnified inside the Tynecastle Stadium when this happens. So, can this be resolved short term, or is this something that plans need to kind of be put in place? Chats need to be had to potentially nip this in the bud before it does become an issue, Barry?
Yeah, I think there's 2 issues, there's 2 scenarios here. You've got the short-term issue in terms of what do you do this season for the rest of this season to try and get Hearts over the line here. They're clearly challenging for a league title. So what do you do short-term there? And the long-term, I think, I've got similar ideas to Liam in terms of what the solution might be. I'd like to see Hearts canvass their fans, all the season ticket holders, and ask them, would you be willing to move your seat, move your location in the stadium into a safe standing section, whether it be in the Gorgie Lower seems the most obvious part of the ground to go for initially. But just ask people and see what kind of numbers you get back, see what kind of response you get. And then whatever plans you put in place would then be dictated by what kind of response you get and what the numbers are. And you then have a fair idea how many people want to take part in this. I think the short-term solution, if that's the right phrase, or a short-term idea, would be to properly crank things up inside the ground. If you get a message out to people that, see, instead of just, and I do it myself at games, not when I'm working, thankfully, but when I go to a game, I'll stay in a pub a bit later and have an extra pint or whatever, and then you're rushing into the ground to try to squeeze through a turnstile for 2 minutes to kick off and all that. But try to get people into the ground earlier, crank up the music, crank up the atmosphere, get the words to the songs on the screens, because there might be some people who don't know all the words to the songs. When I first started covering Hearts, I had to ask people what some of the lyrics to the songs were, although I knew what the songs were, and certain verses or whatever, just out of curiosity. So, in fact, I still have to ask people what some of the words are. But I think in general, if you can build up that atmosphere, build up that noise, build up that a bit of tension. You need a bit of tension before a game. You need to get hairs up in the back of necks and goosebumps on the arms and stuff like that. And I think you can do that pre-match. Short term, that would be my suggestion between now and the end of the season.
See, just before you jump in.
Sorry, Liam.
Sorry. No, on you go, Biscuits.
I don't think we're asking much now, really. As I said earlier, I think the supporters have been terrific, but they can do more. There's 9 home games left, maximum in 9 home games. It's not a lot. Away games take care of themselves. The fans are brilliant away from home. The home games, there's 9 left. I don't think it's a lot to ask for to try and lift, which is sometimes a decent atmosphere, into a brilliant atmosphere for the players. As I said earlier, they deserve it. So it's not a lot. 9 home games.
How do we do that?
Mark, I'm in the stadium. Barry will tell you, I'm in my seat at 2:45. I watch the crowd coming in, as Barry said, they all rush in. But I think from about 2:45, 10 to 3, it should start to ramp up. Whether it be Graham, who's the match announcer, whether it be the fans coming in. I agree with Barry, putting all the words on the screens would help. Just anything at all, any edge that you can get on a Saturday or this midweek on a Wednesday, any edge that you can get that's going to get the supporters off their seats and get them going and try and cheer this team on to victory. I think it's really, really important.
And make sure that the music that is getting played is purely, get as many Hearts songs out there as you can. I like some of the pre-match music that's played, some of the general all-round music, but make sure it's Hearts songs that, as Alan says, maybe from 2:30, 20 to 3 onwards, can we make sure that it's Hearts songs only?
I think, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Barry's probably heard enough of me moaning at times about the build-up songs and wanting to see it focused more on Hearts, or even just letting the letting the atmosphere, but especially big games. Don't think you need too much songs or over the PA for the big games. I think especially the Hibs game, I think the atmosphere and the rivalry builds itself, and then as soon as the team comes out, that's when you hit it with the Heart song and kind of ramp it all up. But I do think it's on the club to try and entice fans, especially like Biscuit says, getting in early. I think fans need to be enticed. I'm like Barry. If I was at a game, I would be in the pub until 5 minutes before, and then going through just right before
So
kickoff.
you're the problem, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd definitely be one of the problems. But I do think fans need to be enticed to go to the game earlier, whether that is entertainment, whether that's like giveaways, or if you look, it's going to be difficult now because hospitality will be sold out. But like looking further ahead, and can there be using the Gorgie at times to bring fans in and make it cheaper and make like alcohol cheaper? Being in the Gorgie suite, the price for a pint of Cruz Campo is quite steep. So it's like it's just trying to give fans give a wee bit back to fans, and rather than having sit down meal, just make it for fans to all come in, and if they've got their seats in the Gorgie, make it a wee bit livelier.
Yeah, I've said one of the things. Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
We've all got match day routines, or we all had match day routines. Is the onus on us as supporters to maybe tweak that, to change that for buses that leave at 1:30, for those buses, if possible, to leave at 1, to do things? Because we can say the club should do this, that, or the other thing, but is the onus not on us as Hearts fans to maybe change those routines if it gives the players that chance to walk out of the tunnel for a pre-match warm-up and see what they did at Kilmarnock this season, at Dundee United, then at Dens Park at the weekend? Is the onus not on us?
Yeah, I think so, but you have to make it a place that you want to go. People stay in the pub because they want to stay in the pub. Do you know what I mean? That's where their pals are. Sometimes it's where the atmosphere is. That's why I think the pre-match build-up stuff is so important, because I know like Rangers are a good example of this. There's very limited muted background music and up until probably 10-15 minutes before kickoff. Teams go down the tunnel, then it's boom, volume 10, and it's all Rangers tunes. So it's like the Rangers chants have turned into dance tunes that are all playing, and then they walk out to Simply the Best, and that's almost like the buzzer to the crowd to be like, right, in you come, because the team we need you, the team's coming off. Whereas we are adverts and guest the season and watching Alan Forrest scoring a goal that you get beat and all that, and it's like it just I go in early all the time and watch the screen and I think, who's this for? Like, who's watching these screens? Because it doesn't get you G'd up. There's no iconic goals in there. There's no.
But I think it's important to remember that it is for people. So there will be people.
Yeah, of course,
100%.
This isn't just for me.
I think this is where they do have a bit of an issue in terms of trying to appease everyone in that run up to the game. I think football's changed in terms of the audience for football. It's changed from when we were all going to games as a kid. It's now more veered towards a middle class sport. There's more families involved in it as well, and I think because of that, you do see some of that sort of pre-match entertainment that we have, and that sort of half an hour up to then. So I think there's a way in which you can appease both parties. I think you can still have that up until that sort of 2:45 slot. It's then what you do from that point forward, and I think Barry's right. I think Heart songs are really key to that. It's very difficult to find a song outside of your club that everyone's going to resonate with. Now, obviously, the Queen song, Claudio Braga, Lightning in a Bottle, that happens once in a blue moon. But we're not in a monoculture anymore. Everyone listens to different songs, they watch different TV, they watch different films. So it's really hard to find a bit of culture or music that would click with everyone in the run-up to a game. They're best just sticking with the old favourites. Just stick with the Heart songs. You don't have to be too overly creative about it. And I just feel like it only has to be 10-15 minutes, as we've all kind of almost admitted to. We don't really get into the ground, apart from Alan, obviously, too early in the run up to a match.
Too late as well, Scott.
So I think if it's just 10-15 minutes, that's completely fine. And it's fine for people to go in there and sort of watch their clips and that as well. I just think we need to be taking a bit more care in that sort of 15 minutes sort of in the run up to it. But one of the best memories I've got for watching Hearts in terms of pre-match is the 96 Cup final, where obviously they're not picking music to just appease Hearts fans. Obviously, there's fair split of Hearts and Rangers fans that day there. They managed to pick a song that Oasis had covered. It was a Slade song, and the crowd went mental that day. And it was
Come on, feel the noise. Was it that way?
Come and feel the noise.
And that was spontaneous, but that's an example of how someone managed to find a song that resonated with the younger audience, because Oasis were the big cheese at the time, but also it was a song that was originally played by a band 20 years prior to that. So it covered all generations. But again, I think it's really difficult to try and get that these days. So you're probably better taking a slightly safer option and just sticking with the Heart songs and just sticking with stuff that we're aware with. Even if it's songs that got played up in the run-up to the 2012 Cup final, everyone talks about songs like Levels and stuff like that, for Avicii. Stuff like that, just those things. It's just really simple. It doesn't have to be overly complicated at this stage. And then that'll allow the club time to try and look at the bigger picture, because there is a bigger picture to all this. There's the immediate concern in the run-up over these 9 games, but then there's what the club need to be probably focusing on over the next few months and years. And that's going to take research. That's going to take understanding of why there's an issue, say, in Britain compared to the lack of issues that you seem to see in countries like Germany, Holland, Greece, Turkey. There's so many other factors as to why the atmosphere thrives in these countries compared to what it does here. But it needs people to try and understand and acknowledge that first, to then find out, well, what can we replicate or try to replicate, and what are the areas in which we're just never going to replicate it? Because some of these, Germany, for example, have the 50+1 rule, which they've had since 1998. That's created this sort of fan feeling that they feel like they own the clubs, and that's throughout the whole organisation. Also in Germany, you've got a lot of one club cities. So you've got a lot of cities that just have one club in it. And again, that gives the fans a reason to connect out with from just supporting that team. Over in Turkey and Greece, it's generally 80 to 90% of the population are from the same religious background. So again, there's another common denominator. For Hearts fans, it's really diverse. It's very multicultural. And that means that the only thing that we really all have in common is Hearts. So you've just got to stick with Hearts and just stick with things that are connected and deep-rooted with the club to try and find a bit of success. And let's face it, we don't even all agree with things when it comes to our club. So it can be really difficult. So keep it to the simple music, and in the background, get people looking abroad to see how other teams make a success of it, and try and just find those little margins for there that we can maybe replicate. But it does need understanding, first of all. I think the problem just now is we're all talking about the fact that it's not good enough. We probably need to take a step back in the long term to go, well, why is it not good enough, but why is it good enough elsewhere? And then once we can figure that out, we can maybe come up with some suggestions as to how to improve it in the future.
Scott, what I would say is, sorry, Mark, what I would say, and I said to you last week, Mark, I'm fortunate enough, Napoli won their 4th Scudetto in 100 years last year, and I was over a few times to see Napoli. And you're right, the away... The foreign teams are much better at it. Go to Napoli 2.5 hours before the game. Yes, the climate's like completely different, but there's a disco outside. Same at Brighton. I've been down at Brighton as well. It's brilliant. But Napoli's incredible. So you go to Napoli 2.5 hours before the game. There's 30,000 outside waiting on the team bus coming in. Now, I'm not saying to do that at Tynecastle, far from it. But this is what they do. They are in the stadium, and as soon as the turnstiles are open, an hour and a half, they're packed. And this is where all the ultras came from. They have got Curve A and Curve B at both sides of the stadium. So Curve A will sing for 10 minutes. Curve B will then take over. The both sets of ultras get on, and then it'll go back and forward for the full 90 minutes. So for that full 90 minutes, that stadium is rocking. I have never seen anything like it. Now, they were on to win the Scudetto, and it was brilliant when they done it. But I was amazed just to see how different it is to our ground in Britain. You occasionally see Liverpool, European nights, you see the buses coming in and all the flares and everything else as the teams come in, occasionally. But in Italy, it's like second nature. That's what they do. They support the team. It's magnificent.
They've almost maintained that supporter-team relationship. I think what's happened in Britain is, over the last few years, it's turned into an audience-player relationship. And it's up to the players to engage with us first. and then we'll react to what the players are doing. It doesn't come for the fans first of all, and that's a hard thing to shift. That's something you would like to think that being top of the league by 6 points would go a long way to fixing that, but ultimately it doesn't. It comes down to how the football's played, and again, if the performances are slightly nervy as it was in that second half last week, unfortunately that just transfers through into the fans. So again, that goes back to the fans having to do a little bit of self-reflection. And I say this myself, I'm the worst one for sitting on my hands when I get really tense and anxious during games. So I know when I go to the game on Wednesday, I need to almost retrain my brain into thinking, what can I do to be a bit more proactive and cheer the team on rather than wait for something to happen? That could take a while.
You were getting
Scott,
stick.
you know what happens as well? Sorry, Mark. You know what happens as well? These players, 90 minutes yesterday, 45 with 10 men. These players have got to be knackered Wednesday. Now, people might say it's all 3 days or whatever. Then they go into another game on Saturday against Falkirk. That's 3 games in 6 days. They're going to be shattered. They need every single bit of encouragement. The good thing is Falkirk are playing as well on Wednesday, so they're going to be equally as tired, but they've had an extra 24 hours for them playing on the Saturday and no the Sunday. So if you can give the players that little bit extra, it's not asking a lot, because as I said earlier, I think the ultras and the atmosphere at times has been brilliant. Ultras have been sensational since I've come into Tynecastle. But I just think, can we do more? Can everybody do more?
Corbett, you were getting stick on your own podcast for
Always.
sticking with the head down and shoegazing, as Scott McIntosh introduced to us, but not to the dance music because you were nervous and you never predict a Hearts win on your podcast. But is it more a case of now do as we say rather than do as we do for Hearts fans and trying to generate something between now and the end of the season?
Well, I think, like I said, fans will react to what's happening on the park first and foremost, and I think that was what was disappointing with Livingston. Is actually the first 45 minutes were actually brilliant, creating chance after chance, played some of the best football that we've seen.
They did.
And then the last 10 minutes of yesterday, you're jeering every throw in, you're begging for the whistle, and then the absolute explosion of yes, that was unbelievable. And that's what the team needs on Wednesday, is just some understanding that they're in a title race. There's 9 home games left or 9 cup finals. Anything that we can do to help get them over the line is going to be massive. We've all been to Celtic and Rangers when it's an opening couple of games of the season and the atmosphere is a bit muted. You go play them towards the split, you go play them in the split when they have something to play for. They all come in understanding that they have a part to play, and when they get behind the team, you can feel they get you. We could be all right in the game, and then it switches, and you can feel the fans taking them away from us, and they go on to win matches and that. So I think that it's good that the club are receptive to it. There's a couple of things that we've already flashed up that we've spoken about. Welcoming in the bus to Tynecastle is something that I've spoke about for a long time. Celtic do it with the Celtic way. They make the opposition players literally walk the gauntlet into the stadium. They've got Celtic fans either side of them giving them dogs abuse. You watch Rangers leaving from Ibrox to go to Celtic Park the other day. There's 1,000 Rangers fans outside the ground, flares, smoke bombs, etc. So the club are looking into it. Right now, I think they're superstitious of breaking match day routines because we are flying, but it's something that they're happy to do. And I know that they have spoken about Wednesday and Saturday, about trying something different, about a call to arms, 10-15 minutes to go, maybe something to help the atmosphere before the game kicks off, and then also help with that lull after the second half. What can we do to make it get you G'd back up again for the start of the second half? So it's good that everybody's receptive. I think that just everybody has to. We've got nine cup finals to create history. It's not too much to ask to be like, just get behind the team.
I'm going to get comments from Joel in just a second. Barry, I just want to ask you, you've covered Hearts home and away for more than 20 years. Which club does it best? What's the best match day experience as far as helping the home team, in your opinion?
I always think the best match days are the games with the healthy away crowds. Whether that's Hearts at home with a healthy away crowd at Tynecastle, or Hearts away with a healthy away crowd at whoever, pick your ground, Easter Road, Kilmarnock, anywhere, Dundee. Was a good example.
Falkirk have got the full stand this weekend, haven't they, in the Scottish Cup?
Yeah. So I think your atmosphere will be pretty decent for that reason. But I think it's a generational thing. It's also I hear other fans of other clubs, not just in Scotland but in England as well, complaining about similar things. Where Man City, for example, I hear Man City fans complaining that too many tourists coming in, not enough atmosphere, people just coming in, sitting down, expecting to be entertained.
There was
not
no
enough.
atmosphere against Exeter.
Yeah,
because it was like that. A couple of friends of mine were there. Yeah.
So the Tynecastle situation is a microcosm of that, I think, and it's also generational because, as we touched on earlier, all of us would have been are old enough to go and stand in terraces when we were younger, and you had to get in early to get a good space, and your pals had to be there, and then the singing started from there. We're also hamstrung in this country because you can't have a beer inside the ground. I know that's not a massive issue. I'm not saying that's the reason why some of these problems occur, but Dortmund's yellow wall, for example, you can stand in there 2 hours before kick-off, you can have a couple of beers. You can do the same at Ajax, you can do the same in France or Spain or whatever. So that is definitely something that would help if you could do that. But I think fundamentally, Alan touched on Napoli there about Curve A and Curve B. The key to that is getting a lot of fans, a lot of like-minded fans together in the one section at the one time. And so if Hearts are going to do that, whether it's Gorgie Road, Stanford, or whatever, get some rail seating in place, get a good number that are up for that, get them. I know the difficulty there is you've got the Gorgie Ultras, who have been great, and I absolutely agree with everything that's been said about them. They've really tried to enhance the atmosphere. You've also got the lads in Section N who do make a lot of noise, and Section G who make a lot of noise, but there's 3 different areas of the stadium, 3 different stands there. So how do you pull all that together?
Yeah.
You have to, as I touched on earlier, you have to canvass people and see who would be willing to move and join forces, if you like. To me, that's the only way around it, long term.
Sure.
So just to touch that, because I came to jump in on that before, when I first approached the club about the Ultras, we did a big survey. We surveyed something like 5,000 fans, and we got about 3,500 people got back in touch to say that they would move to a singing stand, like safe stand and singing section. And that was one of the reasons why we said, because we could have easily just put Ultras in G or N, but it doesn't add to anything to the match day because they're already standing and singing anyway. The vision was always, the long-term thing would be that relationship between player and stand. If it's behind the goal, like at Easter Road, how many times have you been at Easter Road, like even the last game, where you're almost feeling like you're sucking them in towards you to get the equaliser, to get the winner. Imagine we had that atmosphere, that energy, that connection at home, like Liverpool with the Kop, like Man United with Stretford End. That Gorgie Road becomes our home stand. And that's the thing where, the club, I get it, they're backed into a difficult situation. But if there's an appetite for it, for the fans there, I think that you're now looking at, these could be title winning decisions, in the long term. I know we can't do it now for this season, but next season, the season after, if we are going to be serious title contenders season on season, that stand could be a huge, huge game changer because it's housing 3,500 like-minded people. And then if you could even explore into, make the Gorgie Suite like the darts, big long tables, bottle bars, get the music on, get a DJ in, get the guys. How many hours have been on European away days? You go to the pub, the guys get the guitar out, it's bouncing. You make that, and there's a big fan zone. Rangers have built Edmondson House as a fan zone. Celtic have got planning permission to build their own fan zone. Newcastle have got the fan zone.
And you see it with so that's all. I was going back to Corbett in terms of building up that, like the kind of pre-match, and when I was talking about having events in Gorgie Street, I always look back at, was it Jamie Webster down at Liverpool, and some of some of the build up there, and also this is, you don't do this every game, and Hearts don't have a parallel to this, but you look at Coventry with the Enemy. And having a special event like that, where that atmosphere was just incredible. But
could we get Cicero out of retirement then?
What's the Jambo Tribe up to? Remember
that? Tribe with Henry Smith.
I'm sure your voice was on a CD there, Mark. Can get you over.
I was the only one on that had 2 tracks, and it was before my balls had dropped, and it was "Hello" in 1874. But that was that. I still listen to that with you and Murray and stuff like that. Biscuits, when you were playing for Hearts in kind of 92, 93, you've been a fan before and a fan afterwards. How would you compare atmosphere in games that you played against Hearts and also now? How does it all kind of compare? What was the best? What needs work with regards to now and then?
You speak to everybody that's played the game, Martin. Most of them will tell you that the best atmosphere they've played in Scotland is Tynecastle. at my age, people that were playing with me, Roddy Grant is another one at St John's, and Paul Kane even, they all loved it playing at Tynecastle because it was hostile. Now things are different completely now. Songs are tidied up and cleared up, but the atmosphere at Tynecastle in the days was incredible. Absolutely, you would walk out and you'd be like, wow, you'd be blown away with it at times. And it's not quite that at the moment. Now I get it, it's more family friendly and everything else that goes with that. But we need to try and get back to just being louder, just being more vocal. And I think what Barry said, and I never even thought about that, was having the words on the board, on the screens, going through, because there'll be times when the Gorgie Ultras will be singing something, and then other sections will be singing a completely different song. If you can get them all together, singing one song, it would certainly help the atmosphere.
And you could easily just put them in the. I know it's not as popular as it was years ago, but you can easily just put them in the program as well. They could fill up a couple of pages where you've got all the words of all.
Not to be an Ellie naysayer, right? But we've done all of that. We did for 2 seasons. The lyrics to the Ultras tunes were in the program, and there are 3 or 4 different lyric videos kicking about. I get it. I understand the sentiment, but it's something that we spoke about, because one of the feedbacks that we always get is, "Oh, sing a traditional song," or "I didn't know the words to Pshala, blah blah blah, Heart of Midlothian." So we put the lyrics out, and it's like, I always describe it as, it's like 12-year-olds when you went to your first school disco. All the boys standing one side too scared to dance, and then somebody breaks ranks and dances, and suddenly you're absolute cutting rugs, loving it. That's what it's like at Tynecastle. It's like everybody's just waiting. It's like waiting for somebody.
You didn't get 18,000 buying programs, but you'll see 18,000 looking at the screen.
Yeah,
on the screens. I know it's a good shout, and I'd take any of them rather watching that Alan Forrest goal again. So I'm not against it.
Joel, what are the comments like? What's the crux? Is there one thing more than anything else that people are getting in touch to talk about?
Yeah, I think the big thing is the Gorgie stand and what we can do with the Gorgie stand. Hammy 1054 says Gorgie stand into maroon wall, and that kind of just kind of sums it up with regard to safe standing, with regard to like pre-match entertainment. Everyone's talked about making the Gorgie stand into essentially Hearts' version of the yellow wall in Dortmund.
And am I right in saying that the club are maybe slightly, I don't know if reluctance is the right word, but so far they haven't been too keen to do this because that's where the hospitality is, in the Gorgie suite, and they want to keep those seats for the hospitality folk. Is that right? Yeah.
It's not so much about the seats; it's more about how much money it is a revenue maker for the club. It's an award-winning thing for the club, which I totally get. So they've done feasibility studies. We've actually had a couple of quotes for rail seating for the Gorgie lower. But again, it's as it stands right now, it looks like the plan would be potentially just to do the Ultras section, which is only 9 rows, but 2 of them couldn't have the rail seating because of the fact that the Gorgie flips up. So the options are there, and it's more about just the club have never been like that. The hospital has to sit in those seats 100%. They have talked about moving them to A, like they did that used to do before. But my thing has been like, now that the main stand's finished, there's the whole middle section of PR or whatever it's called in the middle bit, just above the media guys. That could be the bit where you house all the hospitality. It's easier to steward, it's easier to police. But again, having 3 stands at home that are filled literally with away fans when we play, like we talk about, we've cut Celtic and Rangers allocation to 600. That's right, but then factor in the 200 that are in the hospitality suites that they don't sit in their hands, because the club always kind of counter that by saying, but we do the same when we go to Hibs or whatever. I was like, but Hibs fans strangely actually behave in the hospitality sections, and we can then go Easter Road and behave, but Celtic and Rangers, they do not behave. I've been in the Ultras section and heard them singing Celtic songs. I've been in there when Tagawa scored the equaliser in the 93rd minute last game of the season, and there's aggro because they're upset that we're celebrating in our homestand about them. So it's not that they're reluctant to do it, it's just more about the Gorgie suite itself is the sticking point, not the seats.
I think what we need to do here as well, in terms of, again, trying to bring it back the focus to the immediate concern, is what can the club do over the next week or two? And we appreciate that that's not a huge window. So in terms of the logistics and the timing aspect of it, you're not giving them a lot of time. But I think a very simple call to arms marketing idea is all the club need just now. Now, there's certain individuals who are either still entrenched with the club or have served the club well in the past that I'm pretty sure if you got them involved in some sort of marketing video as a simple call to arms, it would get people on side. People will hang their hat on the word of Tony. I mean, look how the fans reacted to Tony Bloom on one speech last year. Now, I'm not saying that that's him in his comfort zone, but have the club even approached them? Have the club even thought about having something like this? Derek McInnes speaks really well when he talks about the fans and the interaction, the relationship that the players can have with the team. Get him involved in something like that. Get a couple of ex-players involved. It wouldn't take long, and it's not a costly exercise either, because I understand that you don't want to be throwing too much money at this in terms of trying to fix it in the immediate sense. So it's a case of what can they do in the next week or two to try and pick up the atmosphere a little bit. And then hopefully naturally and organically it'll improve anyway, because the tempo of the games will sort of improve. And, we might, if we bring in the likes of Chesnikov and that to the team, we'll have a bit more balance to the right-hand side. If things improve on the pitch, it might not be as big an issue anyway, because the fans are then reacting to the sort of positive, upbeat tempo that you can see on the park. But that's probably something the club need to think about. Not just the club. You have to remember there's a foundation of Hearts set up there as well. Now, part of their remit really should be to look at the fan experience and how that's affected on match day. So I'd like to think that the foundation and the club are having discussions around this, and their separate marketing teams are having conversations and dialogue about how they can maybe try and improve on this as well. So it would be good to hear from them in terms of, this is what we've suggested so far to each other. This is maybe what we're going to reach out to fans and get an opinion on as well. Because again, going back to that Germany model, one of the reasons why there's that instant connection between those German fans and their clubs is the 50+1 factor. And we are one of a very few clubs in Britain that have that type of template there in terms of the fans being, owners of the club. So it's maybe something that the club just need to play on a little bit more in terms of the marketing. They've done the whole sort of social media side of things. They covered that whole be part of the disruption, I think, is how they put out there. And it's nice to have a bit of a hashtag thing going on for a day or two, but you really need to build on that. What are you doing pre-match day? What are you doing during match day? What are you doing to keep the fans engaged in an idea like that? It's fine to have the initial sort of buzzword and media-friendly soundbite, but you just need to try and extend on that. So hopefully we might hear for the foundation and the club over the next few days or a couple of weeks about that, because that's the immediate concern. A lot of the stuff we've talked about tonight is probably long-term ideas, because it's involving logistic moves within the stadium and moving fans around and things of that nature. That's going to take at least a year or two. But what can be done over the next few weeks, that's where the club need to focus just now. And if it's even something like thinking about what you're playing 15 minutes in the lead up to the game, then fine. But again, the fans need to take ownership as well. So the club can only meet us halfway in this. If the club decide to do something different in the run up to the game or during the match, then the fans need to be open to that and wanting to come in 15, 20 minutes before the game to try and help with that atmosphere as well.
We're going to wrap it up shortly.
Derek spoke about it yesterday. Sorry, Mark. Derek spoke about it yesterday after the game, saying he needs the fans. We need them now. These players have given everything for the football club this season, so we need you to do your bit as well. And I agree with that. And we were all, most of us, apart from you, Mark, were probably and Barry, were in the room when Tony Bloom stood up in front of the foundation and said, "I'm here to disrupt in the next 10 years." If you could bottle that atmosphere that night, because people were coming out thinking, this is incredible what he said. Most of them went to the Tynecastle Lambs after I seen Joel there, and it was just like everyone shaking their head. What is he? This is incredible. And now you see the fruits of what he's talking about. Hearts are miles ahead of where they want to be right now. They are miles ahead. He's talking 10 years. Hearts have done this in 6 or 7 months. So let's try and get behind them if you can. Push them on as much as they can, because hopefully, as Scott said, this is a long-term thing. This is going to be long-term, and let's try and get a better atmosphere in and around Tynecastle.
Just want to read out
just an idea. Could you entice? Shut this down if you want to. Most people would when I speak, but could you?
You're not on Twitter now, son.
I ken Barry. Did he let all the Twitter trolls affect you?
Wow, this is a safe space.
Could you entice fans into the ground earlier by saying, let's say if you're in the ground, if you scan your season ticket before 2:00 or 2:15, whatever time you want, you get an extra loyalty point. You get an extra half a loyalty point, something like that. Could you get people in the ground early enough doing that? Just an idea.
I remember in the 80s, Biscuits, Wallace Mercer, I think it was a Hearts Rangers game. If you bought a programme, you could have won a house. Remember that?
I remember that.
Where
was the house about? That was the problem.
It was at Miller Hill.
I was just going to say,
In terms of winning stuff, there was one fan who suggested bring back fireworks, Phil. A lot of folk have said that, and parachutes, hit the bar and win a car with drunken punters at halftime as well. That's something that would very much enjoy watching. That
hit the bar and win a car with drunken punters. That would be decent. Corbett, that's got your fingers written on.
Yeah, that's a bit of me like.
That's a bit drunken punters. I just want to go to a couple of we've had loads of them, so thank you. We obviously can't read them all.
Mark,
out.
sorry, I'll just jump in just because Claire Hammond, who is a foundation. Wrong one. Foundation board member. Just to confirm, the FOH has been discussing this with the club, and I know there are a few short-term things in the works, while bigger, more long-term solutions are coming.
I noticed Claire didn't have £1.99 beside her name like Harry did earlier. Was that a super chat? Are you getting paid to put certain things in, Mr. Sked?
We I need to pay for Alan's appearance fees, so anything that
he's going to negotiate.
That's how much I'm worth. I'll give you the change.
A couple of messages I just wanted to read out, and a lot of them are to do with the fact we don't have, in essence, compared with other teams, a problem with the atmosphere as such. From Serial Sock Thief, I don't think we've got a problem in the regard of the atmosphere, and I wouldn't want to see it overstated. Tynecastle is more fun than most places. There's always room for improvement and new ideas, of course. Anyway, looking forward to the discussion. Captain Pog, I think it's important not to overdo concerns about the atmosphere. We're basing this kind of short-termism on 45 minutes against Livingston when the players struggled to deal with the nerves, having not been 3 or 4 goals up that they should have been. Captain Pog, our atmosphere overall is good. Many people who go to home matches simply don't want to stand and sing for 90 minutes. Of course, some games have better atmospheres, but feel that's what makes these games special. And Paul Butler says fans actually supporting the team would be a start. Far too many fans want to jump on the backs of the players at the slightest thing and boo them. That's a conversation you had, Corbett, on your podcast last week about the way Hearts fans are. And we are being hypocritical. We're asking them to do as we say, not as we do. But it's very difficult, isn't it, Corbett, to kind of change who you are and what you've been for 10, 20, 30, 40 years as a Hearts fan, to try and change over the next 9 home games to get us over the line?
Well, one of the things that we talk about quite a bit is that if you actually look at it in my lifetime, these are the calmest seas that we've ever sailed in as Hearts. We've normally had somebody to fight. We've had Save Our Hearts, we've had Vlad, we've had Foundation of Hearts bringing it all up. And now it's almost like we used to go to those games and the football was almost secondary because there were bigger problems, there were bigger issues, there were bigger things to be worried about that we would vent our anger at. Now we've got nothing to moan about other than what songs the stadium announcer plays. And it's like almost like having to reteach ourselves how to get behind the team. It was like on, like we said, the Saturday game. Even the points yesterday, there's folk running about me moaning about the manager and the way the players were playing. And I was like, we're down to 10 men. He's put 5 across the back and said, come and have a go. And we've won 3 points. Like it's almost like a trying to change the mindset. It's to recalibrate about we go to the games to support the team, get behind the team. Biscuits mentioned it there. We've got no God-given right to beat Livingston at home. Livingston are a good team. When you watch them at corners, they're like the Harlem Globetrotters. They're at 9 foot. And we've got Cammy Devlin trying to header them. And they're getting nipple high if we were even lucky. It's like, get behind the team. We can't just rock up, win every single game. There's going to be lulls in the game. Playing St Mirren on Wednesday. Physical team, good team, well organised. It's going to take more than us just showing up to win that game. It's going to need the fans to show a bit of patience, encourage the players, get behind them, And yeah, it's just it's recalibrating what it is to be a Hearts fan, because we've got nothing to fight anymore. It's now about getting back to supporting the club and making that difference in the stand.
In a weird
15
sense
months
as
ago, they
well.
were bottom of the league. 15 months ago, Scott,
Yep.
we were bottom of the league.
True.
Bottom of the league.
In a weird sense, what we are discussing just now is in its own way a compliment to this current squad. Because what's happened is that this current squad have now reached a level in terms of the results that they're getting that the fans have become expectant. So that in itself is a compliment in terms of how quickly they've sort of reached that. Sometimes the most voracious football supporters are the ones who are backing teams that literally just, they know they're really struggling. Like some of the best Hearts atmospheres I remember for the last 10 or 15 years are during the 13-14 season. We knew we were up against it, and because of that, it just gives you that added incentive to sort of get behind the team, because you know that the team's going to struggle. So because the team's up at the top end, there is that little bit of expectation as well. And I think it's just a case of reminding us all here, because again, this isn't something where we're talking down or preaching to other supporters. We're all guilty of this. It's just a case of trying to remind ourselves that you've got to try and be proactive. You can't just sit on your hands and just wait on something to happen. And it's not all about singing songs as well. It's just about vocally being a bit more positive. You know, the next time a player misplaces a pass and he's maybe not a player that's one of your favourites, just don't let that negative energy come out of you. Just try and look at it in a more positive sense. This team have gained our trust. They've came back for 3-0 down. They nearly came back for 3-0 down at Easter Road. They've won at Ibrox. They've won at Parkhead. They've won with 10 men yesterday at Dundee. They've done just about anything that you can do during 6-7 month period to gain the trust of the fans. So I think we've got to show them that trust by not waiting on them to show us something on Wednesday. As you guys have all mentioned, St Mirren are a stuffy side, and because they're going through a bad run themselves and missing a lot of players, they're going to be even more determined to just sit in and probably try and frustrate us in the first half. So Wednesday could be one of those nights where the first goal doesn't come early. We've got to almost sort of earn that. So I think the fans have got to stay on side with that, because I think it could be the opposite of the Livingston game, where the first half might mirror stages of the second half of the Livingston match. And I think the fans have got to almost have a bit of an expectation or assumption that could happen, and therefore let's get behind the team and sort of spur them on and almost sort of force that goal in ourselves just by getting behind the side.
Last call for comments, Joe.
We have got Ronnie White suggests a kiss cam at half time.
Corbett, is this you again?
As long as it's not the press box.
You're already down the stairs for your pie, Barry. Lou Mac, I think this is a really good point, is safe stand-in, fan zone taking over the Gorgie Suite or somewhere else. There's a fine line, however, from trying to improve the match day experience and atmosphere and becoming an EPL plastic experience. I do think there's a need to remain kind of authentic, and that's why you're wanting the club or the foundation to kind of provide the fans with the foundation to do it, but not take it over fully, because then I think you get down the road of it being too sanitized that way. Where else have we got? Stephen B suggests a Maroon Mile march before games, putting the Hearts Ultras in the big screen during the games. He's obviously got the Maroon Mile now. And for fuck's sake, Hearts, give Corbett his pulley for his tifos. Might be Corbett's alias there.
Yeah, I knew that was somebody was going to have to say it. I've been talking about it for about 5 years.
Are you on Twitter, Corbett, or X? Or are you sure? You're not an assumed name?
I can't.
Okay. I've got one from John Cowan on Instagram, which I wanted to mention. Folk to stop moaning about things that lead to nothing. It's football. Mistakes happen. We're watching Hearts, not Barcelona. Drives me mental. Players can make one mistake, play brilliant, and an hour later get pelters again. Hearts fans don't forget anything. The fans will be the biggest hindrance to this league campaign. That's from John Cowan.
I'll give myself a slap on the wrist for that, because I was probably doing that yesterday with Thomas Magnuson in the second half.
So we all were. David Hagan was the one I didn't like. Brian Hamilton. Yeah, but that's what we are. We just have to maybe just for 9 home games, because the away fans have been great. I want to wrap this up by kind of doing an in summation. Summarize what we've seen so far and what you hope to have. And I want to do it, we'll do it clockwise. We'll start with Joel, kind of why we're here, what we've said, and what we hope to happen. We'll get all 6 of us to kind of give a kind of closing speech before we wrap this up. And we will say that it will be available on all the platforms, both audio and visually, after we are finished. So to sum up, to begin with, the case for the defence or for the prosecution, Mr. Joel Sked.
I just think fans have got to understand that we're on the cusp of seeing something special, seeing something that's not been done for many a decade, and I think that fans will have that understanding. I think maybe Livingston will be a game where look back on and kind of like the line in the sand. I think there's loads of easy wins that the club can do between now and the end of this season, just in terms of the build-up. And I think there's loads of easy wins that the fans can take, because the fans have got a massive part to play in this. And there's 9 home games. I think there's a couple that take care of themselves, but that ability to get behind the team and to urge them on to be supportive can make a massive difference. And there's going to be suffering between now and the end of the season. I think that's the only way it's going to be for Hearts, and a potential league title. It's not going to be straightforward, and the Hearts support can be massive in that, and certainly the club can help them do that. But it's a nice position to be in terms of discussing this. As Liam said, we're not fighting against anyone, just concentrating on ourselves and moving forward to what could be one of the best seasons of all time.
Well said. 1 hour, 6 minutes and 57 seconds in, and Corbett's behaved himself, but we now give him the floor. That may change.
I'll still behave myself, don't worry. I'll still behave. We take, if there's anything, take the away day energy yesterday, bring it to home games. It's only 9 more. Don't worry about embarrassing yourself. The folk only standing up beside you and don't know what to sing. You sing by yourself. You'll be absolutely sound. We need it for the next 9 home games. And then, great that Claire's on there as well. Like, get some real proper dialogue. I get that we've come out of this world where we have to make money, we have to be commercial, we had to rebuild that side of the business due to the damage Vlad did for us. I totally and utterly understand that. But now we've got to get back to, we've got full houses, we've got a waiting list. What are we doing to make people want to keep coming to Tynecastle? Because it makes a difference. If you have to lose some money but gain an atmosphere, it's worth it in the long run. So short term, away days at home, and then just make sure that the club understand and hear your voice as to what you think can help, because they do listen and they do try their best to make an impact.
Love that. And I love that from Ryan as well. Joel, can you just stick that back on? Because it kind of disappeared pretty quickly. From Ryan, 9 home games to go. Everything from everyone in capital letters.
And there is a lot of maroon wall.
Well, okay. While we're doing our kind of summations and our closing arguments, you can stick up whatever you want as far as comments of concern. People have taken the time and made the effort to put those comments in, so feel free to show them. I'll keep mine very simple. I'm going to repeat something I said on Scarves Around the Funnel. Just make sure that come the end of the season, we as Hearts fans who go to the games can say we did everything that we could, and we don't sit at the end of the season if we haven't won the league, or even if we have, and say, you know what, I could have given more, I could have done a wee bit more. So for all of us who are around the world not able to go on a match day, but we feel it through our televisions or through our laptops or whatever, we kick every ball just because we're not there. Yeah, we can get frustrated, but let's not be in a position come the end of May where we say to ourselves, we could have done a wee bit more, but by then it's too late. On to Scott McIntosh.
Yeah, I think the overriding hope is that this is just the start of a wider discussion that's held amongst other groups of like-minded Hearts fans over the coming days and weeks. We are one very small demographic within the Hearts support. So I think, what we want to try and find out amongst ourselves over the coming days and weeks is, what does the matchday experience mean to the Gorgie Ultras? What does it mean to young families? What does it mean to people on Kickback? What does it mean to people on Talk Hearts? Ultimately, we are given our side of what we've seen so far and what we'd like to see change, but this should just be part of a wider discussion. Hopefully, this is stimulating people into having this discussion in the pub in the run-up to the St Mirren game, so that it's fresh in the mind of people, so that when they go into the ground on Wednesday, they're thinking about what they can do to be very positive from that first kick. And again, think back to the first 20 minutes against Aberdeen at the start of the season. If you could bottle that for the remainder of the season, that will take us a long way, because the crowd were behind the team. Every kick, didn't matter what was happening. Like Corbett was saying earlier, we were celebrating throw-ins like we'd scored a goal that night. That is where we need to be between now and the end of the season.
Barry?
For years I've watched Hearts fans demand that their team leaves everything out there, that the players leave everything out there. So this is your chance to leave everything out there yourselves for these last 9 games. So I want to see, or I'd really like to see, people forget the extra pint in the pub at the end, getting yourself in the ground for half 2 at the latest. Get some Hearts songs on from half 2 onwards, get the words on the screen, crank up the volume, and get the place rocking. And if you do that, there's a league title on the line potentially here. If you do that, you give your team every chance.
Just to go on from what Barry said, and I think he's spot on in terms of Hearts fans kind of standing up and demanding. And I do think that a thing that's really important is that they've got a team out there that I think matches what Hearts fans want to see. A team that's, we've seen it, just battles right to the end, and I think that was epitomised on Sunday against Dundee.
Mm-hmm. Finally, he's used to shouting over others on open all mics, but we'll give him the floor all to himself, Mr. Alan Preston.
Well, Mark, I think short term, there's 9 games left, as everyone's touched on. I think Derek and the players and the whole staff deserve for Hearts fans to be the 12th man if they can. Make that hostile atmosphere that Tynecastle has been in the past. I think the fans have been good, but can they be better? Yeah, certainly. Long term, this is a long-term project from Tony Bloom. So hopefully we can get things in place that this is going to last for a long, long time. But with 9 games to go, leave nothing out there.
Thank you. Thank you to Joel Sked, the editor of Hearts Standard. You got anything you want to finally say?
Yeah, there's been a few comments where so Gorgie says back the GU, get behind them. Too many negative comments are in the GU. If we make the maroon wall, it would be monumental. Fraser Payton suggests get Derek McInnes on the pitch with a mic for just 5 minutes before kickoff to say how important it is for fans to sing.
Let's be having you.
Make a positive noise.
Kickoff would be delayed. One answer from him is like Jim Jeffries.
Andrew Walker says, we've always been a support who needs to feel aggrieved before we turn up. So my suggestion would be turn up to the game as if you've just seen Nick Walsh give a dodgy decision against Hearts against Old Firm.
Use the screens. Put that on the screens. Put all the
Rangers Andy Davis up there on the screens before that. That's what you can do.
Jesus.
Graham Eason said, enjoyed the chat, lots of points we agree with, and have suggested the club are listening and proactive. We all want the same.
And just with that one, Joel, Graham Eason is he's Scott Wilson's replacement at Hearts. He's always open for conversation and discussion. He'll take everything on board. I think that's important. He messaged me beforehand. He goes, this could be interesting. Not in a nasty way. But no, he's happy to chat, and he's a super guy, Graham Easton. So feel free if you want to get in touch with him on social media with any suggestions or requests. I pretty much guarantee you, as long as you're not nasty and you're sociable to him, that you'll get a response.
And probably the best, just to finish this one, Kevin Bonner, 1827 says, this team deserves us. Let's not regret this opportunity.
There you go. Thank you to Joel Sked, editor of Hearts Standard. Thank you to Barry Anderson from the Edinburgh Evening News, to Alan Preston, the former Hearts player, the agent, and now on BBC Sports Sound, to Liam Corbett from This Is My Story, and for Scott McIntosh and myself from Scarves Around the Funnel. There are many other Hearts podcasts which are just as important. Jambo's Kickback, other websites and publications as well. The team is not for wanting of support. There's plenty out there. I'm going to leave you in the words of Scott Wilson and what he said just before the game kicked off at Tynecastle. For those of you going along to Hearts against St Mirren on Wednesday, we're all wanting the same thing. So let's make some noise. Bye for now.